Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Pazza Podcast. My name is Travis, and we are doing this episode immediately after an Inter 1-0 victory away at Venezia. It was a harder than it should have been, earned 3 points for the Nerazzurri. But, come April, May, if the season goes the way that hopefully it does, we won't remember this performance. We'll just remember the 3 points. We'll go ahead and get in a little bit on this match. Heavy rotational lineup to start with. We've had some injuries. Acerbi still is not back. Bisek pulled up with injury after the Supercopa. So did Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu, who got subbed out in the first half against Milan in the Supercopa. So definitely had Marcus Thuram out as well. Not out. He was still in the substitutes, but he was not starting after his injury in the Supercopa as well. So these injuries are starting to pile up. Started out the match with Jan Sommer in goal. Matteo Darmian, De Vrij, and Bastoni making up the back line. Dumfries, Barella, Asllani, Zielinski, Carlos Augusto, and the midfield five. And Taremi and Lautaro starting 2 games in a row after the Supercopa. So, first half started out kind of slow. I believe Venezia, I don't have this written down, but it's just from memory. Venezia had the first opportunity of the match with a free kick on the edge of the box after a foul. Didn't really trouble Jan Sommer. It was not a sailed over, but it was not close enough for Sommer to be too concerned. And then we had Asllani with a free kick right at Filip Stankovic for Venezia in goal, the former Inter youth player. I wrote after that save, keep an eye on Stankovic. I think the announcer during the match said that we do have a buyback clause or a 50% sell-on clause with Stankovic. And yeah, so it's important to see how he played this match. The first 10 minutes of the match was very sloppy. Lautaro was not doing anybody any favors with some terrible touches, no good layoff play or hold-up play. It didn't look into the match. Didn't last long, though. He grew into the match as it went on. Taremi, terrible miss in the 15th minute. Lautaro won the ball back and then pulled the ball back in by, I guess it would be technically in front of the defense. Taremi just kicked the ball. I think this was the one where it went wide left and into the 25th row. As my friend Corey said, it was not a great shot at all. And this would be a theme from Taremi in this match. But after that, the depression of that terrible miss was short-lived. We got a great goal. Asllani with just a brilliant ball, silencing his doubters, over the top. Lautaro with a great touch and then a snapshot immediately after. It ended up being a great save by Stankovic, honestly. A great reactionary save. Lautaro maybe could have put it a little bit wider, but great save nonetheless by Stankovic. But unfortunately, as an Inter fan, seeing Stankovic, but we ended up scoring, but he spilled it right to Darmian, which a typical poacher's goal here. Who would have thought Darmian would be the one? But he ran on and just pretty much had a tap in after that. It was a great goal from Darmian. He's become kind of like a pseudo D'Ambrosio, popping up with crazy goals on that right wing back position. One of his first matches in a while playing too. So yeah, it was great. Darmian on the score sheet. Would have loved to see Lautaro put that away, but take a 1-0 lead nonetheless. 21st minute, Dumfries cross. It was tough for Taremi. I won't hate on him too much for this one. It was kind of behind him. Tried on the volley, but it wasn't meant to be for Taremi for this one. Missed the opportunity. Bastoni with a huge block in the 28th minute. Just really the second and probably only chance for Venezia in that first half. But then Asllani, Barella found him after kind of a recycled corner on top of the box, and it was a huge chance. Just sailed over the crossbar. Probably should have done better, to be honest, but I think Aslani up to that point had been our best player, other than Darmian, maybe with the goal and a decent block at the other end. Aslani looked pretty damn good, in my opinion, in the first half, but it was a stupid yellow that he got in the 41st minute. The ref or the announcer said it was for persistent infringement. He'd only had like 3 fouls spaced over the 41 minutes of the half. So I don't think PI would have came in there. I think it was a soft foul and a soft yellow card, honestly. And it sucked because I think at that point Aslani knew at some point in the near future he was going to come off. And that's Inzaghi's modus operandi. And it sucked because Aslani had been great up to that point. And then we had another opportunity just before the half, a great counterattack. It started by Dumfries to Barella, who found Lautaro, who then found Taremi, who drew the foul, I think, on Zampano for Venezia on top of the box, giving him a yellow card. Ended up being, nothing really came out of it, but that was the best counterattack of the game I think we had, potentially in that first half maybe. There was 1 or 2 in the second half that were good, but yeah, thoughts at the end of the first half. Aslani, Darmian, Lautaro, who grew into the match after starting terribly in the first 10 minutes, kind of were the standouts in my opinion. Taremi, I put he needs to come off. He's just not good enough. That goal against Milan in the Supercopa, barring, he just hasn't been good enough for Inter. It's been a wasted signing, albeit free signing, so can't complain that much. But at this point in the summer, it's looking like we need to find, at the minimum, 2 backup strikers. We need to sell, in my opinion, definitely Arnautovic. He will be gone, and Correa, probably both on freeze. And then Taremi at some point. I mean, this is a big opportunity for him. He gets the minutes. Inzaghi gives him the minutes, unlike Arnautovic, who actually has scored some goals. And he just hasn't produced. I wouldn't be surprised or disappointed if we did sell him at this point during the summer. But it is just January. We have some big months coming up, so we'll see. Taremi needs to prove us wrong and needs to get that fire and hunger. Another thing I wrote for halftime thoughts, Stankovic looks like a stud. He had a couple big saves. I know against Napoli he saved a penalty from Lukaku too, so it's a little weird that we signed Martinez from Genoa if Stankovic's progression is, especially for 15 million euros, if we had Stankovic there. Again, hindsight's 2020, but interesting kind of management question is why buy Martinez when Stankovic, if he's looking this great as of the last few matches. We'll see. Like I said, the announcer said we have a buyback, so something to keep an eye on for the next few months and into the summer. And then I put we need to put the game away early in the second half. We don't need a Pazza Inter situation. And unfortunately, that would not be the case. Inzaghi, though, surprisingly did not take Aslani off at half. It was a huge test. It's kind of a show of faith, in my opinion, from Inzaghi for not. That's, like I said, his MO. Inzaghi is taking people off with the yellow card, especially if they get one in the first half, taking them off by halftime. But he had faith in Aslani. Luckily, Aslani paid him off and didn't get a second yellow. But the second half started off slow. 50th minute, Jan Sommer had a massive reflex save from a header from Dumbia for Venezia. It was off of a corner, and it was closer to him than maybe originally it looked live, but it still was a big reflex save from Jan Sommer. I thought Dumbia, kind of mentioning him, he ended up coming off at some point for Venezia, but I thought he was probably one of Venezia's better players, in my opinion, for the match, along with maybe Busio. Shout out to Gianluca Busio. We'll talk about him in a minute. In the 54th minute, this is mentioning Taremi again, he hit a shot that he literally was like 10 yards, maybe 12, away from the net, almost centrally located, and it went out for a throw-in. And that just sums up his time at Inter, and it sums up that I don't think he's good enough for us. He's on the wrong side of 30 as well, and he's just not a player I think going forward after this year that we need to rely on. I mean, maybe he could be a fifth choice, kind of like a Correa this year, but he's definitely not someone who should be our first choice off the bench to replace Thuram or Martinez if they're injured. It was just an abysmal shot, an abysmal performance by Taremi, honestly, in my opinion. We had some subs, though, after this. Fratesi came on for Aslani, and Thuram came on for Taremi. That moves Zielinski back to Regista, which I think this was maybe one of Zielinski's worst games in an Inter shirt. He did not play great at all, in my opinion. Towards the end of the match, maybe he kind of played a little better, but the first 70, 75 minutes, he just wasn't up to par. He didn't look like he was sure of what he needed to do or his positioning, and that honestly could come from just lack of playing time. Mkhitaryan, for whatever reason, for Inzaghi, is irreplaceable, and it's making it where Zielinski is having to either play a regista or barely get minutes, and you can't excuse a player for a poor performance, but it's also hard to string together a good performance when you haven't gotten any games. We'll see. I would like to see Zielinski. It seems like Mkhitaryan might be injured for a couple matches, so maybe we'll see Zielinski midweek against Bologna. We'll see. In the 66th minute, opportunities to kill the game presented itself. Davide Fratesi, 1v1 on the keeper. It was a great ball over the top from Carlos Agosto. 1v1, like I said, it was on his left foot. Still not excusable for a player who's wanting more minutes. You got to show Inzaghi why you deserve more minutes, and he didn't put it away. Albeit it was a great save by Stankovic. Theme of the match, kind of. Stankovic kept keeping Venezia in this game. Then we had Marko Arnautovic come on for Lautaro, and Benji Pavard finally back after a couple of months off, going in for Dumfries, which would move Darmian up to right wing back. After this, though, Venezia kind of grew into the match and was looking more dangerous, had more clear-cut opportunities. It seemed like Fratesi did have another chance. He drove into the box, left-footed shot again, and it was a good deflection by Venezia. But then Gianluca Buzio, from Greensboro, North Carolina, my hometown. We played in the same boyhood club, Greensboro Soccer Club, which I believe now they've changed their name to the North Carolina Courage, maybe, or no, it's I can't remember, but used to be Greensboro Soccer Club when I played there, and when Gianluca Buzio played there as a kid before he moved to Sporting Kansas City. So shout out to Buzio, always great seeing him play, the American. Wouldn't have been happy, though, if his shot had gone in. He hit the post. It was a great cutback. Hit the post. Jan Sommer knew nothing about it. Made its way to Poyan-Palu, who was in the offside position, but he flubbed it completely right to Jan Sommer. Big save again from Sommer. Sommer was great this match. Di Marco came on for Barella, which was interesting. I had mentioned my group message of a couple of other Inter fans that, with all these injuries, I've always said that I think that Di Marco could potentially work as a regista or a deep-lying center midfielder, a la kind of like Kwadwo Asamoah did for Juventus whenever he played there. I believe whenever he played for Udinese, he was a center midfielder, and then at Juve, they moved him out to left wing back. I would have liked to seen maybe Di Marco move and play in that regista position, but he did come in for Barella and played kind of that Mkhitaryan position, which originally I thought maybe that would be a 4-4-2 like we had done against Arsenal. Kind of do the back four with Carlos Agosto, Bastoni, De Vrij, Pavard, four in the back, and then across midfield have Di Marco, Fratesi, Zielinski, and Darmian. Against Arsenal, that's how we saw the match out, playing that 4-4-2 with kind of in that same position. I don't think it was the same players, but same kind of thing. But Inzaghi put Di Marco in there at left center mid, which was interesting. Again, Inzaghi doesn't like to change his tactics much, so keeping with that 3-5-2. And then at the end, classic Forza Inter. But before this, there was a flare that got thrown on the field. Jan Sommer wasn't too happy with the fans. I also saw reports on Reddit that 2 Inter supporters got jumped by 6 Venezia supporters outside of the match, and then they're throwing flares on the field. I don't know if it was directed at Jan Sommer or just, just trying to throw a flare on the field. I don't know, but seemed, if the reports that I saw on Reddit were true, it seems like Venezia's ultras didn't have their best day, and kind of a classless performance by them today, unfortunately. But going back to the match, classic Forza Inter fashion, not killing the game out, it seems like. Poyampalu for Venezia had a huge chance. I believe Buzio, again, won the ball over. We couldn't tell if it was Darmian or Pavard, headed it down to Poyampalu, who hit the volley one time. Luckily for us, it was directly at Jan Sommer. But that was the last chance, and Inter saw it out. Some good hold-up play in the corner from Arnautovic and Carlos Augusto. Kind of saw the game out, and 3 points, like I said at the beginning. Coming in May, if we win the Scudetto, or April, if we really are pulled ahead, we won't remember this performance, how sloppy it was. We will remember the 3 points. So that's something to hang our hats on. Some end-of-the-game thoughts. For me, Darmian was man of the match. Played great defensively, had a couple key blocks, couple key interceptions, got the goal, a la Inzaghi style, Pippo Inzaghi with a classic poacher's finish on a follow-up. You could make the case for Jan Sommer, had some big saves. I think if Aslani would have got the full 90, you could have maybe made a case for him. He played great, silencing his doubters from midweek in that performance against Milan in the second half of the Supercoppa. Some other thoughts. Our subs and backups, they came on. No impact on the match, unfortunately. Fratesi wants more minutes but can't score a one-on-one opportunity. Doesn't look comfortable in Inzaghi's thing. At this point, I think, if we didn't have injuries, I would be maybe more on the side of selling him. But with the injuries piling up and stuff, we're going to need someone like this, and he's got to show up and play like he did that last season. And we'll see. It's an interesting thing with Roma. I don't like Cristante. I wouldn't want him included in the deal. Maybe Pellegrini would be all right. I could see him coming in and doing decent. Maybe just for a dry loan, though. But we'll see. We'll see that Fratesi situation. And who else? Really, Thuram didn't really do much. Our subs didn't come on and make any difference at all. It was good to see Benji Pavard come back on. Hopefully him and Acerbi are getting better. And maybe Mkhitaryan and Çalhanoğlu will be back soon. The injuries have really started to pile up. And the last thought is that 3 points, like I've said a couple of times, is all that matters. Big month coming up. Big week actually coming up. Atalanta yesterday drew 0-0 with Udinese. They play Juve midweek and then Napoli next weekend. Napoli play Verona later today. This is being recorded right after the Inter match. And then they play Atalanta next week. We play Bologna midweek. So it's a big week. If Atalanta and Juve, let's say, Juve get a result or a typical Juve draw, or as I like to call them, Juventus, we could put ourselves even more ahead if we beat Bologna. And then Napoli and Atalanta next week. I wouldn't say Verona today is a big match. If I'm not mistaken, Verona is the team that beat Napoli 3-0 at the beginning of the season. Verona, you never know which Verona you're going to get. A team that concedes 5 to Inter, 6 to Atalanta, or a team that beats Napoli 3-0. They've beaten a couple other teams randomly with big score lines, so we'll see. It's a big month. I think January is the biggest month of the season for Inter, considering February we got a tough run of matches. We have 2 games in hand. We're sitting second place right now, 1 point behind Napoli, who have 44. We have 43, and we have 2 games in hand on them and 1 game in hand on Atalanta, who are 1 point above, who in third place with 42 points. So January is a big month. Need to get all the points we can get and really distance ourselves away from these teams that we're competing against for the Scudetto with these games at hand come February. Guys, I appreciate all the support. This is going to be my only talk about Serie A this weekend, this episode. Look for another Calcio and Heralded Legends episode. You guys have really supported that one this week with the episode of Luciano. It's gotten my most views and streams of any video I've put out so far. So I appreciate all the support, guys. 3 points in the bag. classic Pazzi Inter fashion, but we did it. And it's on to the next game, Bologna midweek. Appreciate the support and help, guys. Any like, view, share, subscribe, anything like that is huge for me. So appreciate it, guys. And as always, Forza Inter.